What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Let's Build the U.S.S. Voyager Season 1, Episode 28. I'm Zerlete, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we've got about a 20-minute episode. We're going to be doing just a little bit with the interior today. We're going to be building out our straightaway corridors. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, the reason I'm going to be I did this at this stage in the game, because I talked about that we weren't really going to be doing the interior on Voyager, but I wanted to do enough in the event if I didn't do a second season. So in other words, where we would flesh out the shuttle bay, the main corridors and also the main corridors that would take us up to the bridge. Now, I actually had somebody ask me the other day about this inner ring here and how it's kind of getting right up on where the backbone's going to be. We will get into that in Season 2. Basically, I just haven't decided where I'm going to cut off the back end of the oval back here, but ultimately we will have to do that. And even the straightaway corridor going back to the neck, don't worry about your exact placement where this is going to be stopping. I'm more or less just bringing this as far back as I can where I have enough room to build out all of the corridor itself. But this whole back area we will come back to, I promise. But it's just at this stage in the game, that's really not what my focus is at this point. You know what I mean? And there's only so much time I have on every episode to get stuff done. So this is something that we will be coming back to, long story short. Today's episode, we're really just working on getting the template done for our corridors so that this way when we come back in Season 2, we'll have this... we'll have this outlined so that we can just expand on what we already have. And I'm not doing anything super crazy here. I'm just working off the outline that we already have in place. We went into previous episodes and we put our template down for our outline for our straightaway corridors, and I'm just building off of that, you know. And at this point, we're just taking the template for our corridors. Excuse me, I keep sneezing. I can't help it. My bad. But we're just taking the template for our corridors, and we're going to be doing basically an x-axis point. But once we have this in place, then we'll come in and we'll add in our turbo lifts to bring us to the lower hull and then also the bridge. And a lot of the stuff here I could just be skipping over this, but I wanted to show it just in case anyone gets stuck. But overall, the template that we have in place for the corridors really isn't going to be too hard. We've got our row of gray concrete, followed by our white concrete, and then gray concrete, and then lights above that. And then we're dividing that, and we're doing 3 rows in between for kind of like our bracket corridor layering, I guess what you would call that. We're literally just going to take this all the way down, continuing with our pattern. As long as we're doing this, no mistakes can be made. But no, there's going to be some, you guys will notice in this tutorial that there's going to be some things that will start working on. Like as an example, the inner circular ring for inside the saucer, that would be the template for circular corridors. You'll notice that once we built out that template, we're really not going to come back to it for the rest of the season. One of the reasons I do this is that if I'm not 100% sure of what I want to do with something and I don't have a clear idea in mind and I don't have any ideas on what I think could possibly fix the issue, the best thing that I'll do is I just walk away from it. In other words, taking a break for a while, giving some time to let that just marinate and think about the problem that you're having and the way that you want to go about fixing it. You'll see that in a couple of different areas with Voyager, that we'll work on something for a little bit, we'll take a break, we'll do something else, and then we'll come back to it. We actually did the same thing on the Enterprise D with the deflector dish. So this isn't a bad thing to do. This is really a great exercise, because this is why I say that if you don't have an idea of what you want to do, the last thing you just want to do is just start free building with no clear idea, because then it can just really mess everything up, unless you're making multiple save files and you're not worried about it at that point. If you have those backups, then yeah, you can go ahead and just go crazy and experiment until you come up with something that you want. But I try to avoid doing that unless I have some type of idea in the direction that I want to go. And one of the problems that we're going to have with the circular corridor on the back of the neck is that basically we're not going to have a complete circular corridor for Voyager. There's just going to be no way about it unless I went back and I made the ring smaller. The more I've thought about this, the more it's just kind of become clear to me that I don't have to have a fully complete circle for the circular corridor. There's no rule in place that says that we have to do that. So I think more than likely what's going to happen, you won't see it this season. We'll do it in season 2. But like I was saying in the beginning of the episode, that we'll come back, we'll delete the very back end of it, and just kind of connect those ends with the straightaway going to the middle part of the straightaway corridors, and just call it a day. But all this stuff that we're doing here, it may not seem like it, but it's really vital to the build. You know, I'll have people tell me like, oh, the bridge is the most important thing, or this area is the most important thing, and that's why I always start with that. And like, look, to each his own. But for me, when I'm doing these builds, I feel that your pathways are the most important things that you could possibly put down first. As far, we're not talking about building like in the fictional world of Starfleet or anything. We're just strictly talking about working within Minecraft and just designing things in general. And you need to know where you're going. You know what I mean? The last thing you want to do is be in a position where you're building rooms out, and then after the fact you're coming back and be like, oh crap, how am I going to connect all these rooms together? So this is why I build out my corridors before I even get into doing the interior, because it makes it easier at that point to divide up your ship more or less. Now you can see that I'm counting out here, because basically what we're doing is I'm counting out where my corridors are going to be going. And bear in mind, you may not have your exact placement point for the very, very back end of how long the corridor is, but your indicator here, where you will be building these out, using your blue builder lines. This is another great thing why we kept them in place. So you see that we had the 2 builder lines here. Let me go back just a little bit. We had one in the back. We skipped the middle one, and we're building on this 3rd one. That's eventually where one of our turbo lifts are going to go. And look, here's the thing. Just because I'm saying these steps and what I'm doing, I'm not trying to say that this is the only way to do it. I hate when people act like that, where they think that their way of doing it is the only way to do it. That's why I'm the first one to say there is a million and one ways that you can build these things out. I'm just going over the stuff that I do, that I've found that has been the most helpful to me in getting the most detailed ship and well thought out ship that I possibly can. Because as I've gone throughout the years building these ships out, it's literally trial and error and repetition, doing basically building more or less the same similar things over and over again. Eventually you begin to get better at this. And I didn't always build out my interiors this way. In fact, I used to build them out the exact opposite. And I mean the exact opposite. I used to go in and I build out my rooms, and then after the fact I go in and I do the corridors. And I had nothing but trouble doing it this way because it just turned into a nightmare of having to reconfigure things here and there, and just it put me in a position that I didn't want to be in. So those of you that don't want to be in that position also, I'm just trying to save you from having to go through that headache. But if this is the way that you prefer to build, I say more power to you. Do what works for you. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, what we're doing here, there's no right or wrong in what we're doing. We make a mistake, whatever. If we veer away from the source material, that's okay. Because that's not what's important with what we're trying to achieve with Voyager and any other build that I do on my YouTube. The point of this is to chill out and relax and just have something to focus on, to take our mind off just everything in general. You know what I mean? This is something that I do to de-stress and to decompress, because just life, adulting, just things in general, it can be a lot. But one of the things I love about Minecraft and building on here is that you get on here and you start building away, and all of a sudden like 4 hours went by and you didn't even realize 4 hours went by, and you were just focused on the task at hand and what you're doing, and it's just super relaxing and also satisfying to see your progress and to see your building coming together. So if you haven't done this and you're just watching, I mean, I definitely recommend it because it's super therapeutic. This helps me unwind. I honestly, I depend on this because with work and just everything in general, it can be a lot sometimes, and I really I look forward to getting on and building on Minecraft now, just to having that tool basically to help me relax. It's absolutely amazing, and I cannot recommend it enough. So if you're not doing it, jump into it. You don't have to build starships. Build whatever you want, you know. Yeah, you know, I build a lot of starships on here, but this is not the only things that I build on Minecraft. I do build other things from time to time, but starships seems to be the most popular request that I get on Minecraft these days. Alright, we're looking pretty good so far. Trying to map out how thick this thing is going to be, and more or less we're only making, I get the better way to differentiate, like these are more or less pods that we're making, and we went 2 pods back, and now we're going to start working on our actual turbo lift. One of the other things too, I had somebody that I was showing my save, and I was showing them my builds on Minecraft, and they were actually questioning me. They were like, so your turbo lifts are really not that accurate to the shows. And we just started talking about them. Like I told them, like, you know, it's kind of impossible to build out the turbo lifts the way that they're designed in Star Trek and translating that over to Minecraft. There's no way to build that out to where it looks good in Minecraft, in my opinion anyway. Sure, you can do it. You can make a room that's going in every single direction that you could possibly think of and stuff, but I've tried to make that work for me, and I can't make it work. There's going to be people that can. Like I said, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. I'm just saying what's worked for me. What I've ended up just deciding on, as far as the turbo lifts go, they're basically just elevators. They go up and down. I'm not doing the whole zigzag left, right, and every other direction as far as building them out in Minecraft, because it just doesn't look right and it doesn't have that practicality feel to it. Now, if there were different type of building mechanics and we can actually make elevators that did that, went all those directions, yeah, we could do stuff like that. But with what we have to work with, I feel like this is just the better way to go. Now, you're going to notice that we're going to be building out 2 sets of turbo lifts on the left side and the right side. To be perfectly honest with you, if you just want to do one, do one. You don't have to do 2. But I did end up doing 2 on Voyager just to keep it even, you know. You also want to do your research too, especially since we're kind of moving along with our outside and we're just starting our prep work for our interior. Now is a great opportunity to start doing your research for your interior shots of Voyager, because that's going to come into play in Season 2 when we get into that. Now, I'll be honest up front, when I build out my ships, I do not build them a one-for-one replica of how they look. I add my own spin to it and my own configuration as far as where things go. And the reason that I do that is because I've just learned over the past couple years that when I'm building in Minecraft and the sizes that I'm building them in, you kind of have to make things work based on the shape and room that you have to work with. And that's one of the reasons why I build these ships out, the interiors, the way I do. Another reason I do it that way is because I don't want to be handcuffed and having to do specific things. Because again, like, my whole end goal for this isn't to do the most accurately perfect build. I'm literally just trying to relax and enjoy myself and have a good time. That's it. And if I can do that, I've achieved exactly what I wanted to get out of this. So I can't stress that enough, that I'm not going 110% for accuracy. So I don't I don't understand some people when they comment on my channel sometimes. They're like, that's not within canon. I wasn't trying to make it within canon at all. So just throwing that out there. But no, I mean, I enjoy how these ships come out, and honestly, I like the way that I do them, because you have that sense of freedom, and it's more relaxing that way. You know what I mean? Now, with that being said, I go and I use my reference material, because that's super important too, because you want it to feel like Voyager in this case. It's got to feel like Voyager. But not everything has to match up 110% within canon all the time. You can take some liberties and have some fun with it. Otherwise, that's just defeating the purpose of what we're going for here. We're looking pretty good. I hate saying it, but this was another area that I was toying with not showing the process for building out these turbo lifts, just because I've done so many of them, but I've ended up including it in Voyager's tutorial for the people that have never done any of my builds before. So if you're very familiar with my turbo lifts, you're probably not going to need this episode, other than just getting rid of a couple of builder lines like we're doing here and there, just to clean things up a little bit. But those of you that have done several of these tutorials at this point, there's really no difference and the turbo lift on Voyager than any of my other builds. The one and only difference is just the color scheme. I just kind of, between working on the Cerritos, the Enterprise D, just all the builds and my last couple of builds specifically, I've learned that if something's not broke, don't fix it. And what I mean by that is that not the color scheme, because that's definitely going to have to change ship to ship, but the overall design, you'll see less of changes basically ship to ship for the interior, because there's only so many configurations that you can come up where things look good. At least in my opinion, as far as what I've come up with, because I've actually tried to come up with different templates for turbo lifts, and what we end up doing here is more or less what we've done with some of the other ships, and it looks the best. So in that regard, it's like, you know what, I'm like, yeah, they look kind of similar, but the color is different, so I can live with it. That's one of the least important things for me. Even the corridors, like Voyager's corridors are actually very close to the Enterprise D, with the exception of the lighting in the corners. Because I really wanted to get the lighting right on Voyager, because when you're walking through those corridors, it has those lightings, the lights up in the corners, basically, of the corridors as you're walking down them. But other than that, it's the same template, just slightly different colors. But anyway, I've rambled on enough through today's episode. We've gotten a decent amount done. We'll be jumping back into the rest of the turbo lifts and what we'll be doing with the interior in episodes 29 and 30. But I think that's going to do it for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. If you have any questions regarding today's episode, drop a comment below. Definitely love hearing from everybody. Or if there's any build suggestions you want to see. A lot of content coming up in the future. We've got Voyager Season 2, the Enterprise D Season 2, the Excelsior 2 class, as well as the Enterprise A 2.0 once we hit 1,000 subscribers. But anyway, that's going to do it for me today. I just want to thank everybody again for tuning into today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section. Post your pictures in Discord.